$253 million was the amount received by Carol when she won her case. Carol Ernst was a woman and was widowed. She lost her husband when he followed a cardiac arrest. The reason for the cardiac arrest was diagnosed to be a painkiller, and she filed a lawsuit against this multi-million-dollar pharmaceutical company, Voix. Her lawyer, Mark, and presentation specialist, Cliff Atkinson, delivered the opening presentation that unleashed a storm upon the audience. The defendant presented a rather contrasting, dull presentation. And in the end, the judges, the jurors, gave the verdict in favor of the plaintiff. The difference between the plaintiff's presentation and the defendant's presentation was the BBP approach, beyond bullet point approach, developed by Cliff Atkinson. Toastmasters and guests, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Today, we shall see what BBP, beyond bullet point approach, is and how it will help you revamp and better your presentations when you actually give them. There are three bedrock tools in PowerPoint that we have rather neglected through ages. Those are the normal view, notes page view, and the slide sorter view. It is actually being used in this particular order today. The secret to unlock the beyond bullet point approach is to flip the whole thing and use it in the reverse order. Starting with the slide sorter view first, then coming to the notes page view, and finally using the normal view. I'll describe these three views in detail and tell you what's the difference between using the beyond bullet point approach and a conventional way, and what difference it makes. Starting with the slide sorter view. Slide sorter view basically helps you manage your information in your presentation. In real life communication, we believe that whenever a sender sends a message to a receiver, it comes through a pipeline, unobstructed, untouched, intact as it is. But does it happen really? No, there are barriers of communication, so message is never delivered as it is. The reason being, human memory is split into basically three components: the sensory, the working, and finally the long term. Sensory is something like whenever I deliver or talk something, the first few milliseconds or seconds, what you feel, what you see, what you touch, what you listen, is being stored in that part of your memory, sensory. Then it's being moved on to working memory. Working memory is just like where the attention of the audience is at this moment. That's being dealt with working memory. And finally the long-term memory, which is basically the integral part, and it says how long can you retain the message in your audience memory. It can last as long as 30 seconds or as long as a lifetime. So basically what happens when these things happen? When you deliver a message, the sensory tries to accept the message, and through this particular needle, eye of a needle called working memory, it tries to pass on to the long memory. You see, this is not a pipeline. It has been focused down to a working memory. So when you try to produce a chunk of information and push it, it gets lost here, and only bits and pieces of information gets stored in your audience memory. As a speaker, when I give you a lot of information, you never retain the whole information, only it's in bits and pieces that you remember. Thus comes the adage in PowerPoint presentation: the less is more. The lesser you give, the more the audience receives. This is followed by the notes page view. The notes page view is basically the synchronization process. What I try to show and what I am saying, are they both in sync? There is a concept called dual concept theory. It says that whenever a presenter or speaker presents something, the message, the visual and the verbal message, is in turn understood and processed by our audience in two different but related channels. Those channels are, one is the visual channel and another one is the verbal channel. To help understand this better, the beyond bullet point approach says, whenever you have a slide, put the minimalistic on the slide, which basically is your visual, which you show to the audience, and most of that put onto the off notes, read or text box. This is basically what you see. This is basically what you're going to see. So this helps a seamless integration happens over here. Whatever you're saying and whatever you're showing. So it's basically a seamless integration. When I show the slide first, the first few seconds you take is to read the slide. Then whatever I say, you're going to listen to my narration. There is a seamless process that's happening from the beginning till the end. Now that was about the notes page view. Finally is the normal view. We actually tend to use the slide first, then go to the notes page view, then finally go to slide sort. But when in the reverse order, this is how this particular part is a typical example of how your normal view should look like. You should have a headline that completely summarizes a single idea per slide. Second, it should be followed by a graphic. It can be infographic, it can be a chart, it can be a picture, it can be an image, it can be anything. That consciously and scripturously inculcates or completely integrates the whole message with what you're going to speak. How does this help? Whenever you try to show a slide, when you cram too much information into a particular slide, what happens? The audience tries to read the whole content. They don't listen to the audience. And when the speaker tries to say, there is a split application happening over here. There is the attention is split between the visual and the audio. And this also helps in the second part called redundancy. When you see a slide with too much crammed up information, you only see that the reader is actually reading the whole content from the slide. This comes as a redundancy. But when you apply this beyond bullet point approach, the redundancy and split attention are both reduced. In this way, it helps the audience to retain information better and longer. Cliff Atkinson used this reverse process of starting with the slide sorter first and then coming to the normal view in the last. Toastmasters and guests, that's the basic difference between a conventional way and a beyond bullet point approach. And that helps to get dramatically better results. You too can inculcate your PowerPoint presentation views in this format and see how it changes the experience of your audience to a much better, melodious, engaging, and a meaningful way. Over to your Toastmasters.